You'd think that people who talk about finance for a living have it all figured out, right? Well, what if I told you even the pros make mistakes? And I'm not talking small ones. I'm talking about massive, costly errors. Today, we're diving into over $1 million in lessons, all learned the hard way.
Yup, that number right there, $1 million. That's basically the price tag for creator Graham Stephan's financial education. An education he got not in a classroom, but through a series of painful, very public, and very expensive screw-ups.
And this quote from Graham himself really says it all. Looking back, that entire clip aged horribly. See, this isn't some victory lap. It's a raw, honest confession about what went wrong, and you know what? That's where the real value is for the rest of us. So, think of this as a $1 million confession. The whole point here isn't to look back and laugh at someone's failure. It's about digging through those painful losses to pull out some powerful, universal lessons. We're turning some seriously costly mistakes into priceless wisdom. All right, first up, chasing wins, finding losses. This is all about the high cost of trying to be a genius, actively picking stocks, making speculative bets, trying to outsmart the entire market. Spoiler alert, it did not go to plan. Man, this timeline is just a perfect picture of an emotional roller coaster. So in 2021, he plunks down 150 grand into the Robinhood IPO, totally buying into the hype. But then the stock tanks. And what does he do? What so many of us do. He doubles down, buys more at 20 bucks, then even more at 10. It's this classic emotional trap where you just can't stand to admit you lost, so you throw more money at the problem. By mid-2022, he just gives up and sells everything for a 50% loss. The really painful part? The stock later went on an absolute tear, a potential 250% gain, completely gone. And this is where it really hits home. All that effort, all that stress of picking stocks, a few winners, a few losers, it all added up to him being financially worse off. And the alternative? Just the boring, simple strategy of buying and holding index funds. He would have been way, way ahead. That is a tough pill to swallow. Okay, next up, the collectible car trap. He actually sold Tesla stock to buy a rare Tesla Roadster. The logic seemed kinda sound, right? He figured the car, being a future classic and one of only 1,500 left, would be a better investment than the stock. What could possibly go wrong? Well, a lot. A whole lot went wrong. Just look at the brutal reality here. He lost at least 30 grand on the car's value alone. Then he dropped over 10 grand on repairs. For a car he drove only 500 miles. You do the math. That works out to about 80 bucks per mile. That's not an investment, my friends. That is an insanely expensive hobby. Now let's jump over to the wild world of crypto and one of its most important rules: not your keys, not your coins. All this means is that if you don't control your crypto in your own wallet, you're just trusting an exchange to hold it for you. And he knew this rule. He knew it. But he figured spreading his money across different exchanges was a safer bet. And yeah, that decision, it turned out to be a disaster. When a couple of those exchanges went belly up, he lost access to 3 Bitcoin and 50 Ethereum. Now, the dollar value wasn't as high back then, but at today's prices, that loss is just massive, and it was totally preventable. You know that one stings. And the mistakes weren't just in the markets. They bled into business ventures too. This brings us to what I'm calling the failed venture fallacy. He got inspired, partnered up on a new business, and figured he could just delegate all the hard stuff while he did the fun parts. But it became pretty clear pretty fast that their visions just didn't line up. He wasn't all in, he wasn't really in control, and after just 6 months, they went their separate ways. The price tag for that lesson? $250,000. The takeaway here is so clear. If you're not ready to pour 100% of yourself into something, just don't do it. All right, let's get into our next section, and this is a big one: outsourcing and overlooking. This whole story is about one single, absolutely devastating mistake that all came down to trusting a professional a little too much and not double-checking the work. Okay, so let's break down how this tax disaster even happened, because it's a real cautionary tale. Step 1, his CPA asks for a simple 6-month tax extension. No big deal, right? Step 2, he's told, don't worry, you're all caught up, you don't know anything right now. Step 3, the bombshell. A year later, a huge bill for an underpayment penalty shows up in the mail. And step 4, the painful end, he has to pay it, and every single appeal to get the money back gets denied.
It all started so simply, with just a 6-month tax extension, a totally normal, seemingly harmless delay that was hiding a huge, expensive problem right under the surface. A problem that would eventually become this, an absolutely shocking $80,000 penalty from the IRS and the state for underpayment. And the final, crushing number in this whole saga? 0. That's exactly how many dollars he got back after years of fighting it. A permanent, completely avoidable loss. And his takeaway from all this is something we should probably all tattoo on our brains. He says, when it comes to your taxes, don't cheap out. Get the best person you can, get a second opinion if it's necessary. You just cannot afford to set it and forget it with your money. Now, for our last mistake, and honestly, this one is fascinating. I'm calling it the paradox of caution, because after hearing about all these wild, risky bets, it's going to sound crazy, but playing it too safe can also be a really, really costly mistake. And this chart right here tells you everything you need to know. A full quarter of his entire portfolio was just sitting in low-yield treasuries, making a measly 4 to 4.5%. And why? He said it was for peace of mind. But that peace of mind had a seriously steep price tag. His thinking here is kind of incredible. He was basically planning for the financial apocalypse, a worst-case scenario where his income, his stocks, and his real estate all crashed to zero at the exact same time. Now, it's good to be prepared, but being that prepared meant a huge pile of his money was just sitting on the sidelines, missing out on some huge market gains. So, okay, we've walked through all these different flavors of financial pain. Let's get to the ultimate takeaway. How do we boil down $1 million worth of screw-ups into a few simple, powerful rules we can actually use? Well, it really comes down to these 3 things. First up, embrace boring. Seriously. The slow, steady index fund strategy isn't exciting, but 9 times out of 10, it wins in the long run. Second, pay attention. You have to be the CEO of your own money, even if you hire people to help. And third, and maybe this is the most important, don't repeat mistakes. Learn from what went wrong, change your plan, and get smarter. And that's really what it all boils down to, isn't it? Every single one of these mistakes, from chasing a hot stock to hoarding cash out of fear, it was all driven by emotion. Greed, fear, wanting a shortcut. So I'll just leave you with this question to chew on. If even the experts are emotional investors, what does that mean for you?